The live action Snow White is finally in theaters. I have made tons of videos leading up to this movie's release, talking about all of the controversy surrounding Rachel Zegler and the production in general. And now the movie is finally here, and yes, I did go and see it. So what are my thoughts? My overall opinion, is this the worst live action adaptation of a Disney film? No, it is not. Is it the same movie as the original Snow White? No, absolutely not. They did change a lot when it comes to this adaptation of Snow White, and there are many reasons why. Disney has been trying to right the wrongs with things that they've put out in the past, and being that Snow White has inspired these types of articles right here, Snow White and the inherent sexism, Snow White, it's classic sexist trash, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and the hashtag #MeToo, reclaiming a classic. These are the types of articles that have been written about Snow White. And with this new live action adaptation, Disney did not want those types of articles being written about their new Snow White heroine, so they retooled her and gave us something else that is completely safe and devoid of any type of emotion. To me, it feels like 2 or 3 movies sort of jumbled up together, put in a blender, and then corporatized, add some musical numbers in there, put it on a platter, and serve it to the audience. Now, I did rewatch the original movie before I went and saw this new Snow White movie, just to refresh my memory. And when I was watching the original animation, it made me cry. As short and as non-complex as that movie was, it still evoked some type of emotional response from me. I cried towards the end. So I was hoping to get that type of emotional response to this new movie, and unfortunately that just didn't happen. So what is this movie about? Right away, we are introduced to why Snow White is called the name that she is called, why her name is Snow White, and the reason being she was born in a horrible snowstorm. That is why her parents decided to name her Snow White. So after that, a few years pass and we are introduced now to this kingdom. The kingdom is ruled over by the king, the queen, and Snow White, their daughter. Now this kingdom is like this utopia where everybody shares everything. Nobody has more than the other person. And we know this because of the song that they sing. It's called Good Things Grow, complete equity and diversity, because one, the kingdom is incredibly diverse, and they say that in the song. With a treasure trove of gems hidden just below the ground, a beautiful abundance we share. We lead with open hearts, and we live with open doors. With love to protect and provide, and we always keep in mind that what's mine is always yours. May goodness be our one true guide. So everyone lives in harmony in this kingdom, in this utopian society, even though they live in like this class system, because there is a king, a queen, and their daughter. So there is some sort of a class system in place here, but nobody has more than the other. And that just does not make sense, but that's what we're presented here. So the queen ends up dying, and now we're introduced to the evil queen, to Gal Gadot's character, and she comes in as this beautiful magical woman. There's a big emphasis on how beautiful she was and how the king was completely awestruck by her beauty. So she ends up marrying the king, but not only that, she tells the king that there is danger to the south of the kingdom, and he has to go and fight for the kingdom, or else they'll come and destroy the kingdom or something like that. But there is danger to the south of the kingdom. So the king gathers up his soldiers and goes to fight for his kingdom and never returns. It's presumed that he died. So now the evil queen takes over this kingdom, and it's no longer a utopian society. She actually strips everyone of their goods and sort of hoards them in the castle, and she just wants power. The one with the power can rule them all. She even sings a song about it. And for whatever reason, it is stated that she does travel around with this huge magic mirror, which is incredibly gigantic. And the fact that they say that she travels around with it, like, how does she even do that? But whatever. She travels around with the magic mirror. She puts it on the wall, and we get to see her say her famous line, "Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" The magic mirror for years and years and years has told her that she was the fairest of them all. And with that, we're introduced to Snow White. The queen has relegated Snow White to a position of servitude. And when we're introduced to Snow White, she's talking to the woodland creature. She's talking to like a bird and a squirrel, which is totally fine because that's what she does in the original animated movie. And I wish that they had done even more of that. After this, there's like maybe one other instance where she talks to animals, and that's about it. Anyways, we're introduced to her, and growing up, her parents, told her to envision herself as a ruler of their kingdom, and she was able to do it as a child. But now the further and further away she gets from that vision that her parents gave her as a child, she doesn't know if she'll ever remember who that girl was. She's worried that that vision will eventually fade away, and she'll lose the memories of what the kingdom was before the queen's rule. She really wants to get back there, but she's sort of stuck in this moment of time, and she sings a song about it. After she sings the song, now we're introduced introduced to not the prince, but a bandit named Jonathan. And Jonathan is in the castle pantry or something, and he's stealing potatoes. He doesn't know that this person that he's speaking with is Snow White. And he tells her that, like, with the queen hoarding all of this food, he's just coming in here to get his share, and that the kingdom is starving, the people are starving. And Snow White is like, well, maybe the queen doesn't know. And Jonathan sort of tells her, like, no, she knows. She's depriving the kingdom of goods. And Snow White is like, well, what about Snow White? And he tells her, like, nobody has seen Snow White in years. And he just brushes her off, tells her, you should take some stuff too, because they're all used to living in this utopian kingdom of equity. So he's just like, take your share. And with that, he leaves. Now, because Snow White apparently thinks that the queen doesn't know that the kingdom is suffering, she goes and sits at the dinner table and tells the queen, like, our people are starving and maybe we should bake them pies. The queen says no, and then they actually caught Jonathan, and the queen wants him executed. And Snow White was like, no, don't execute him. She's like, that's not fair. So then the queen was like, okay, well, here's what's fair. You stole from me, I'm gonna steal from you. So she ends up stripping him into his undergarments and ties him outside of the palace as a warning for people in the kingdom. Like, if you come in here and try to steal, you're going to die. So he's meant to be tied there until he freezes to death. But Snow White comes up to him, gives him like half a piece of bread, unties him, and tells him to run away. And the queen sees this and she's sort of threatened by it. So she goes and asks the magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all. And the magic mirror says that Snow White has been awakened and now she's the fairest one of all. She's woke. Threatened by this, the queen has the huntsman take her out to pick apples to make her apple pie, but the huntsman is supposed to kill her. Now, in the animated version, the huntsman can't kill her because she's just a child, and the huntsman falls to his knees and begs her forgiveness and tells her that the queen ordered him to do it, the queen wants her dead, and that she should run. In this version, Snow White isn't scared. She turns around and sort of like lifts up her head, and she demands to know why he's about to kill her. But he can't do it, and he tells her, run into the woods. The queen wants you dead, and you better go before I change my mind. So this tells me that, like, he doesn't really feel sorry for her. He just can't do it. And not only that, it's presumed at that time that he has something to do with her father's death because he makes mention of her dad's name. I'm assuming that he doesn't want to kill her because of something that he knows about her father. There's like guilt there. It's not because of anything having to do with Snow White. He just doesn't want something else on his conscience as well. So Snow White runs into the forest creatures who lead her not only to the seven dwarves' cottage, but also up the stairs and into the bed where she goes to sleep. It sounds weird, right? But that's actually what happens. That's why she goes to sleep in their house. Like, she's just led to the bed. Then we're introduced to the seven dwarves. They go to work. They sing Hi-Ho. And I actually kind of like this version of Hi-Ho with the visuals and everything. Do I like the animated dwarves? No, I think that they look terrifying. I like the visual of the mine, and that's about it. So I was more focused on that than the faces of the dwarves. All of their faces are terrifying. The only ones that are tolerable to look at are Doc and Grumpy. That's it. They honestly look like, they're going to lead me into a van for free candy. Like, if I focus on their faces, it feels like I'm in a fever dream. So I couldn't focus on their faces. I had to focus on everything around them. But overall, this sequence is probably like my favorite one in the movie, to be quite honest. Now, are they dwarves? No, they're actually like over 200 years old, and they're magical creatures who live in the forest. Now, how do the dwarves find Snow White? Well, they come home, they're exhausted from working. They can't wait to go to sleep, but when they go to their beds, they see Snow White. She's under the covers moving, so they think it's a monster or something, and they end up running out, and they leave Dopey behind. He's just not fast enough to get to the door, so they end up locking him in there on accident, and it is on accident, because when they slam the door, they're like, where's Dopey? Snow White wakes up, and she looks at him, and they both scream. So the dwarves rush in because they think that something is happening to Dopey. They heard him scream. They rush in to try and kill whatever is frightening Dopey, and they end up seeing Snow White. And the dwarves don't trust humans. The reason being is that they know that there are bandits that live in the woods, and the reason they're living in the woods is because they fight in the name of the king, Snow White's father, and defy the queen. And so for that reason, they don't want any trouble from the queen, so they don't trust the humans that are out in the forest, and that includes Snow White. They ask her who she is, and she's like, I'm Snow White, and they're like, what are you doing all the way out here? Grumpy doesn't trust her, but everybody else sort of just wants her to stay. So for whatever reason, the dwarves pick on Dopey, and Dopey gets upset, runs outside, and Snow White, has like this heart-to-heart with Dopey. She sees him as a victim of bullying, and then like goes inside and sees that all of the dwarves are still fighting, and proceeds to bully the dwarves into cleaning up their own house. So that's when we get Whistle While You Work. So the next day, Snow White is saying goodbye to the dwarves, and it's presumed by the way that she's saying goodbye to them that this is the last time we're going going to see the dwarves. It really does feel like a final goodbye. She wants to go and find the bandits because they're fighting in the name of the king. So she's assuming that her father is alive and presumably held prisoner in the South Kingdom. For whatever reason, I don't know why she thinks that, but she does. So she leaves the dwarves and the dwarves leave. They go to work. Like, it literally shows them parting ways on two different paths. So at this time, the queen ends up finding out that Snow White is still alive through the magic mirror. She puts the huntsman in a cellar and she ends up deploying her guards to go through the forest and find Snow White and kill her. So all of the guards are now in the forest trying to find Snow White, and Snow White is looking for the bandit. While looking for the bandit, she comes across Jonathan again. And Jonathan is not only a bandit, but he's actually the leader of the bandits. And for whatever reason, he doesn't like Snow White. He assumes that she is like royalty because he ends up singing this song about how she has princess problems and that she needs to just go and tell her princess problems over to the queen. She calls him selfish and they sort of talk down to each other. I'm not sure where this attitude came from, but it just does not make sense. The way he is treating her does not make any sense. Unless it's just to show him as like this toxic man who doesn't matter what living conditions that you are living in. It doesn't matter your situation. They're always going to treat you like shit. So he goes, takes her to his group of bandits and they end up fighting the queen's guard and he tells Snow White to run away. Snow White doesn't run away. She actually comes back. They're about to lose. They're about to die and Snow White ends up saving them. But there's one guard left and he fires an arrow at Snow White and Jonathan, I guess, hears him. I'm not sure how he hears them, honestly, because he is so far away, but he hears him fire an arrow and gets in the way and gets shot in the shoulder. So he takes an arrow for Snow White. So they take him to the dwarves' cottage and Snow White asks Doc, like, you need to help him. You need to heal him. They're really treating this as if he's about to die. So Doc makes this joke like, I'm just called Doc. Like, I'm not actually a doctor. And they're like, who cares? You're magical. Do something. Use your magic. Like, that's pretty much how they treat Doc. Like, take him and save him. I don't care that you're not a real doctor, which is so irresponsible, but whatever. The bandits kind of tease Snow White, telling her that like, oh, Jonathan's in love with you because he took an arrow for you. And she's like, what? Like, what? He's in love with me? Literally hours ago, he is telling her how she has princess problems and treating her like shit. And she's looking at him like she can't stand him. But now she's like, oh my goodness, he took an arrow for me, so he totally likes me. And that must mean he likes me. The romance really does come out of nowhere. It's a whole 180. One minute they're lecturing each other on their different ideologies and the next they're falling in love. It really does make no sense. Jonathan ends up walking out like totally fine and Doc turns around and is like, oh, I thought you were dead. Jonathan and Snow White end up singing a song about how much they're falling in love and they're about to kiss, but then they get like interrupted because everybody's watching them. The next day, Jonathan and the bandits go somewhere. I really can't remember where they went. Snow White gives him her necklace that her father gave her. And then she says goodbye to the dwarves for a second time. Like, this is another final goodbye to the dwarves. And it's really awkward. Like, in the original, she spends all of her time with the dwarves. Like, she never leaves. But in this one, she wants to leave. Any opportunity she gets, she wants to get the hell out of there. So this time, she wants to go and search for her father in the South Kingdom. I think that's where she wants to go. I honestly can't remember. Jonathan ends up getting captured by the queen. She wants to know where Snow White is. He's like, I don't know. But then the queen sees the necklace on him and she's just like, oh, you'll never. So she locks him in the dungeon. And that's when she formulates her plan to turn into the old hag and go to the dwarves' cottage. Now, Snow White is still in the cottage. She doesn't leave right away. She's packing some stuff up for her journey to the South Kingdom. The dwarves have left. They're at work or on their way to work, but Snow White is still there. And this part sort of plays out just like it did in the animation, with a few exceptions. The old hag tells her that the queen has Jonathan. He's been captured. She gives her the necklace as proof. She takes the apple and she bites the apple. The queen laughs and tells her, you know, you're not the fairest one of all. And I killed your father, by the way. Snow White looks at her in defiance, with hatred, with disgust, and then falls into the sleeping curse. Now, the forest animals go tell the dwarves. The dwarves come back, see that she's dead, and the queen gets away. While the queen is away, Jonathan ends up getting out of the dungeon along with the huntsman, because the huntsman is in the dungeon as well. So they both get out. We never really see the huntsman again until the very end of the movie. But Jonathan goes and races to the dwarves' cottage, and the dwarves have put Snow White on a rock. Jonathan looks and he sees that it's too late, but the song that they sang together earlier in the movie was called A Hand Meets a Hand. In the song, it's written that if one day you might need to kiss me awake, I really hope that you do, or something like that. There's permission given in that song where he can kiss her awake. He puts his hand on her hand, leans in, and kisses right here. He doesn't kiss her lips at all. He just kisses her on her chin practically. But she wakes up and looks like she's not even happy to be awake, because she's just the queen killed my dad and now I want to go and reclaim my kingdom. And a single snowflake falls from the sky. It's not winter, but a single snowflake falls from the sky and into Snow White's finger. And mind you, she's able to see this snowflake from way up in the sky, because it takes a little bit of time for the snowflake to hit her finger. And now I'm going to take back the kingdom. Are you guys with me? And Dopey speaks in this movie. He speaks for the very first time in defiance of the evil queen. And Dopey's a rebel. Anyways, Snow White goes into the kingdom. And at the beginning of the movie, Jonathan tells her Snow White hasn't been seen in years. But for whatever reason, when she walks through the gates, everybody now realizes that that's Snow White, and everybody is walking behind Snow White, and Snow White sings this song of defiance, and now she's going to take back her kingdom. Now she realizes she's someone fearless, someone fair, someone brave, and someone true, and she's singing this as everybody behind her is singing with her, and they walk up to the gates of the castle. The castle is being guarded, and the evil queen comes down. She creates a dagger with her magic, and she's like, here, you want your kingdom? Take it. All you have to do is kill me. And Snow White doesn't do that. And because she doesn't do that, the queen ends up giving the dagger to another soldier and says, here, kill her. Kill Snow White. And the way Snow White ends up saving herself and her kingdom is she calls out each soldier by name and reminds them about what they used to do before they were soldiers to the queen. And they're sort of awakened as well. So now not only is Snow White awakened, she's sort of awakening each of these old soldiers, and they do not want to fight for the evil queen anymore. They throw down their arms. They don't want to kill Snow White. In fact, they want the queen to leave. And so Snow White tells the queen, leave and never return. It's so anticlimactic, if I'm going to be honest. It's very anticlimactic, but it's sort of a callback to this one random line that Snow White has when she's talking to the dwarves, because the dwarves tell her their names in alphabetical order, and she's able to recite their names back in reverse alphabetical order, and she gives them this lesson on how it's so important to learn people's names. It's a callback to that. This is sort of the result of knowing someone's name. It can lead to saving your life and your kingdom. It's so random and ridiculous, but she has awakened these soldiers, and the queen is mad. She grabs the knife, tries to kill Snow White, but one of the bandits actually saved Snow White's life. Then the queen looks at the 7 dwarves who are inside the gates of the castle, just standing there led by Dopey, and she runs away and runs into her room that has the magic mirror. And she asks the magic mirror, who's the fairest one of all? Snow White ends up chasing her up there as well. The magic mirror tells her that it's not you. Snow White not only has beauty from outside, but she also has beauty inside, and that beauty is greater than yours. So the inner beauty beats the outer beauty, and the evil queen gets mad, smashes the mirror, and the mirror ends up killing her. I don't know how it works, but the mirror ends up killing her, in front of Snow White. Snow White's just there. She's just standing there, watching. She doesn't do anything. She's just in the room. Snow White's taken over the kingdom. Everybody is celebrating, and they all attend a Diddy White party, and they celebrate at the very end. And now we're back to living in this diverse, utopian, equitable society. Snow White is now the ruler of her kingdom. She has taken it back. And that's the movie. Oh my God.
My head is in such pain!
Now, I've been filming for an hour, and I've bored myself. There's a couple of things that I do want to talk about in regards to this movie. First is the romance. The romance between Jonathan and Snow White comes out of nowhere. When they first meet each other, he doesn't even know that he's meeting Snow White. He thinks that she's just a maid in the castle. And then she ends up helping him, setting him free, and giving him food. Their next meeting is in the forest, and they end up singing a song about princess problems. Jonathan has this attitude towards Snow White. I would think that since he met her in the castle and looked at her living situation, that she is a maid in this castle, I would assume that he would have a little bit more sympathy towards Snow White, but they end up sort of lecturing each other about their different ideologies, their different point of views. She looks down at him for putting himself first above other people. He sort of talks down to her as well. There's a whole song that they sing to each other, looking down at each other. He didn't mention her living situation once. He just assumed she's Princess Snow White. Nobody has seen Snow White. And so it's presumed with this song that he thinks that she's living the good life in the castle. So when I say the romance comes out of nowhere, he took an arrow for her, but they were just singing about how much they can't stand each other. And someone just tells her that he took an arrow for her because he likes her. Now I'm totally in love with him. It's such a terrible message to send to little girls because of what Rachel Zegler said about the prince not being in this story. The romance was added into the movie. That's why this romance seems to come out of nowhere. It's not even earned. There's no reason for them to be in love. There's no reason for us to even assume that there's any type of love between these two, other than the fact that they're now singing about it. Their whole relationship is just a complete 180. And then later on in the movie, after he kisses her awake, she kisses him, but then that's where their romance stops. It almost felt like, okay, we'll give the audience the scene of him kissing her awake, so that way they'll be pleased that that scene finally happened. But now we're getting to the true story of Snow White and what she really cares about. Because after that scene, after he kisses her awake, nothing ever happens between them. They don't ever kiss again. They don't ever hold hands ever again. They just sort of dance together. That's why it's like two conflicting movies that are happening at the same time. Because once he kisses her awake, she can get back to the true thing that she cares about, which is taking back her kingdom in the name of her father, becoming the leader that she knows that her father always wanted her to be. It doesn't even feel like these two actors wanted to be in a love story together. There's zero chemistry, none whatsoever. In fact, when Rachel Zegler is singing her half of A Hand Meets a Hand, this is supposed to be the song where they're like falling in love with each other. She makes this face like, Maybe it has to do with you. She doesn't even seem sure when she's singing what's supposed to be her love ballad to this guy. So yeah, the love story, not buying it. Let's talk about the seven dwarves and what they did to Dopey and what they took away from Grumpy. In the original animated classic Snow White, the reason you get emotional when Snow White ends up succumbing to the sleeping death and the dwarves presume her dead is because of like this journey that you take with Grumpy. It's the least likely character to take this journey with, but you do. It ends up happening. And Grumpy doesn't want her there. He makes all of these jokes about like, women. You invite women, they're gonna make you wear perfume and tie your hair in bows. Not only that, but he doesn't want her there because he doesn't want the wrath of the evil queen to rain down upon them. And he's very upset that the dwarves are letting her stay, so much so that he's at odds with Doc. He keeps teasing Doc. He almost fights Doc. Snow White has been nothing but really gentle and graceful towards Grumpy, and she really wants Grumpy to like her. And he's been nothing but like really mean. He doesn't want her there. He sticks his tongue out at her. Unfortunately, recently, in recent years, all of these jokes were made to be extremely sexist. So you can't have that in the new Snow White movie. When the animals go and get the dwarves, the first person to show concern for Snow White is Grumpy. And he leads the charge. And not only does he lead the charge, but he has a significant lead on the dwarves. Like, he is racing to save her. Even when they chase the witch up the mountain, you can see that he is way ahead of the other 6 dwarves. Not only that, but when the dwarves are mourning over Snow White, Grumpy turns his head in shame and starts weeping. Snow White has shown him nothing but love and grace and kindness. And in return, he's shown her nothing but negativity and anger. And, he's just mean to her. He's shown her that he doesn't want her there. And so he is crying out of that guilt and that shame of treating her that way. He has so much regret that while the other dwarves place their bouquet of flowers around her coffin, Grumpy is the dwarf that puts the bouquet of flowers in her hand. In death, he's going to treat her with the kindness that she showed him. Now, when the prince wakes her up, Grumpy is very happy, and Grumpy and Dopey are the only ones who she touches on their heads when she gives them a kiss. Grumpy smiles at her and he puts his head down so she can kiss him on the head. And after that, he blows her a kiss. He blows her the kiss that he turned his nose up to. He blows her that kiss back. Snow White has taught Grumpy love. She has taught him kindness. And all of that is stripped from Grumpy in this movie. All of that heroism is given to Dopey. Even the teasing and the bullying that Grumpy experiences, that is given to Dopey. And that's such a shame because Dopey was never problematic. Dopey was always this childlike character. Dopey was meant to represent the innocence in people, but they turned him into this rebel, a moral rebel. That's what they turned him into. Snow White, when talking to him about him being teased by his brothers, I'm just going to call them brothers, ends up teaching him this lesson that you don't have to take that. And in fact, I'm going to stand up for you. And the lesson that he learns from her is not one of love or empathy or grace or kindness. It's to stand up for yourself and rebel against whatever is bringing you down. That is literally the lesson that she taught Dopey. How? Well, let's talk about Whistle While You Work. So Snow White teaches Dopey this lesson, right? He doesn't have the courage to speak out, to use his voice and defend himself. So because he doesn't have the courage just yet, she teaches him a different way of communication, and that way is whistling. So they walk into the house and the dwarves are still bickering and making a huge mess, and Dopey whistles at them. He whistles very loudly because remember, that is his new form of communication. That is how he is currently using his voice. So now she wants them to clean up the house, clean up the mess that they've made. And while they do that, she's going to teach them how to whistle. Snow White does not clean this house with them. She instructs the dwarves on how to clean them. In fact, it's almost treated like as a punishment for what they did to Dopey. So like they picked on Dopey, and as a consequence of that, this is your punishment. You have to clean up this mess that you made. She literally just got there, and now she needs to teach the dwarves a lesson. Snow White, of course, does not clean. Every time she picks up a cleaning item, it's handed off to another dwarf. And there's a totally different feel to this Whistle While You Work in comparison to the original animated classic Whistle While You Work. In the original animated classic, the dwarves are working. They're working in the mines, and Snow White is cleaning the house in the hopes that whoever lives there, she's assuming that they're children, they will let her stay. In return for letting her stay, she will continue to clean the house. Not only that, but she will make dinner because she needs to earn her keep. This is what she knows how to do. She was a maid in the palace. So in the original Whistle While You Work, it is Snow White cleaning along with her forest animal friends. And when she's done cleaning, she goes upstairs and everybody, not just Snow White, but everybody, all of the animals are exhausted, and that is why they end up falling asleep. In the new movie, remember that I told you that the forest creatures guide her to the house and take her upstairs and everybody falls asleep? There's no reason for that. Like, she literally goes into this house to take a snooze, and then the very next day, she tells the dwarves, you need to clean this house now. Clean the mess you made. It is so different from the animated movie. In the animated movie, the nap is almost earned, right? Because she did work, and so she goes to sleep. This one, she just goes to sleep. Whistle While You Work literally feels, in the live action movie, like a punishment. It feels like a punishment that's played off as a happy musical number. All right, let's talk about the actors. Andrew Burnap as Jonathan. He was fine. He was the leader of the bandits. The bandits themselves, none of them really had a lot to do in the movie. He can sing very well. I think they tried to make his character like Flynn Rider, except Flynn Rider is not the leader of some rebellion. He literally is, I'm just looking out for number one. I'm looking out for myself. Whereas Jonathan, they try to make him like Flynn Rider, where he is only looking out for himself because he even sings about it, but yet he's also leading the rebellion against the evil queen to take back the kingdom. It really does feel like his character are two separate characters. All right, let's talk about Snow White. Let's talk about Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler has a beautiful voice. She can sing. She can belt. This Snow White is defiant, so she needs to belt out these notes. She can definitely sing. I do not like her acting. Rachel Zegler speaks with like this monotone voice the entire time. Even when she's trying to give this motivating speech, it's just completely monotone. My father's kingdom, and I'm gonna need you guys to fight with me. The evil queen won't make it easy. Like, it's not inspirational at all. Even at the very end, when she's supposed to be awakening these soldiers as to who they really are and to remember how the kingdom used to be, it's again in that low monotone voice. She's just like, Stephen, do you remember you used to be a baker? I remember. We used to go to your shop and you used to share all of your baked goods. That is how she speaks in the entire movie. If she's supposed to be the leader of a rebellion and give these motivating speeches, it really doesn't come across. It almost comes across as if she's bored by telling everybody what she wants to do or what she needs. It's like, I have to have these people behind me because I can't do it on my own, and that's the only reason that I'm giving these speeches. So let's just go and get this over with type of thing. Like, that's how it comes across. So I don't really like her acting in this movie. I really wish that she gave more. She brought more to the role. I also wish that they portrayed Snow White a little bit more gentler. She's not gentle at all in this movie. And because she's so defiant and because she's so at odds with a lot of people in this movie, you don't really get a glimpse of that kind heart. You're just told that she has a kind heart. So let's talk about Gal Gadot. Her costume is gorgeous. That being said, Gal Gadot's not really a good actress. Like, I can stand watching her in some movies, especially when other actors around her are better than her. So they kind of like bring up her acting by being better than her. In this movie, her acting really stands out because the person that she's acting opposite of is Rachel Zegler, another weak actress. So her bad acting really stands out in this movie. That being said, she does go over the top, and she even said in interviews that she just hammed it up, that she just like loved playing this character. And you can tell in her musical performance that she's absolutely having a great time playing this character. Her song, I didn't like her song. Her song wasn't very good. She did say on Jimmy Kimmel that she can't sing. So, I mean, even she is admitting that she can't sing. So her musical performance in this movie isn't strong, especially when you're comparing it to Rachel Zegler's. So her performance for me was fair. You can see that she's having fun with the character, but the acting really does stand out because she doesn't have anybody around her to elevate her acting performance. So it really does sort of stand out, and it's just fine. Was there political messaging in this movie? 100% absolutely there was. Yes. At the beginning of the movie, like, everybody is living in an equitable, diverse society where nobody has more than the other person. And then the evil queen comes in, takes over, and tells them that there's an evil kingdom to the south that wants to come up and destroy everything that they have. So like, yeah, I feel like there's political messaging there. And then you have these rebels in the woods who want to continue to fight for the previous king because they remember how it used to be. So yes, absolutely there is political messaging in this. You can absolutely see how they've taken inspiration from modern day and inserted that into this movie. What did I think of this movie overall? If I'm comparing it to the original animated classic, I hated it. That movie had heart. That movie had emotion. This one had none of that. This one was like 2 or 3 separate movies that were all jumbled and pieced together to make this corporatized, safe movie, trying to right the wrongs of the original Snow White movie while also inserting modern day politics into it as well. It was a mess of a movie. Do I think that all of the controversies will have an effect on this movie? Yes, absolutely I do. There's been nothing but negativity surrounding this movie. Rachel Zegler wished that, half of America never know peace. Not only that, but she pissed off Disney fans as well. Like, there has been so much wrong with this movie that I don't think it's going to do well. I really do think that not only the controversy will affect the movie, but also the fact that a lot of people are tired of all of these Disney remakes. And given that the controversy surrounding this movie have to do with them changing the story of the original Snow White, people aren't going to want to watch this movie because they don't want to see another character that they love get completely destroyed by Disney in a live action adaptation. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in those comments down below. And if you made it this far, if you made it to the end of the video, leave an apple emoji in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, everyone.